I'm super excited to talk about my new novel unit that is nearly done. It is by far the best work I think I have ever done. It is for Peter Brown's The Wild Robot, which is a lovely book. If you have not read it, I highly recommend this book. One of my favorites. My students loved it. And it's going to be a little bit different from the work that you may have seen from me previously. It's going to be in a digital interactive notebook format. Obviously, I'm so into that right now. But also, I'm going to be doing station rotations. So there will be editable pages that look like this, and you can choose the different activities that you want to have students do. And there's two different formats. So you could have them complete everything on the list for the week. So maybe Monday they could do the knowledge rating, Tuesday the context clues, Wednesday the vocabulary quiz, practice, figurative language. There's games and fun stuff as well. Or you could do a this or that type of format and give them a set number of tasks that they need to complete. Either way, it will be editable, so you can make it be how you want it to be. Let's take a look at what this one is just for the word study. There's going to be, I can't remember how many things there are. I think there's 4 different things, but I'm going to go out of this present mode so you can see everything around it and how to make it. So there will be a printable version on a lot of these, as well as the digital version, just in case some activities work better for you, paper and pencil. Let's get rid of this side thing. So in the sidebars, there are words here to copy and paste into this. I wanted to make everything as editable as possible so that you could customize it to be how you want it to be. But that word list, it's actually not going to be there because I didn't want to put this slide in there a whole bunch of times. It's going to be customizable, so you would add the words that you want from the word list. Here is a different version of the knowledge rating. I liked this one because it was a little bit cuter, but either one, it's basically the same idea. I like this activity because I then have students choose for different additional things to do that week. They need a vocabulary word and they have to choose a word from the 1 or 2 category. So I've never seen this word, or I've seen this word, but I don't know what it means. This is an example of one of those things. So if they are doing this activity, they would have to choose a word from the I don't know what it means or I've never seen it category. Then, I wanted to show this too. So there's also a spreadsheet that you can go to that has all the words for that week. There's 6 weeks of word lists for different sections of the book to be reading. And there's a definition and the sentence that it came out of, because some of the activities are going to be for context clues. And so you'll want the sentence for that. So you could just copy and paste out of that spreadsheet. In the gray areas, this is why I went out of present mode because I wanted to show this. In the gray areas for each week, I have a word list. Let me show on the next one where the spreadsheet's not in the way. I have the word list here, and you can add a link to this click here for whatever it is you want them to do. So there will be a chart that has week 1, a link to a quizzes that I created for each week, and a link to vocabulary.com, and a link to a Google Forms quiz for the vocabulary words. Trying to think if there was anything else I made. So you could choose what it is you want them to do and add a link to that. And the way you do that is just add a shape over it because my images are not editable because I didn't want people to be taking images that I paid my daughter to make for me. By the way, my daughter did all this artwork for me, and she's so incredibly talented, and I'm so proud of her. Shout out to Sasha Marshall for being such an awesome kid. If you want to have her do artwork, you could let me know and I'll see what I can do. She is pretty busy. But anyways, I was adding a shape there. I don't know if you saw that. And I made it transparent and the line transparent. And then you add a link. So insert link, and then you just paste the link to either Google Forms or your quizzes or vocabulary.com, whatever it is you want to be using. Add that link there so the students can read the words and then click on the link to practice. Now, each week looks the same here, but let's get to this part. So the one activity where not the one, there's a couple of activities where you're going to want to have the words there for students to use. One of them is categories, and I've done a YouTube video explaining this. It's one of my most favorite activities ever. But there's also a teacher's guide that you could print out that explains step by step how to do stuff. But how to set this up, I wanted to show that. So you'll go to, let's say we're on week 2. You can either have them do click and drag word boxes, which I kind of like, but you could also just copy and paste the word list. So that's why I have them out here in the gray area so that you don't have to do any work aside from just select it and copy it. So I'm going to select this whole group of word cards and I'm going to copy it. I just copied it. And then I'm going to paste it here. So when the students do this activity, this is here in case you're going to have them copy and paste words from the other list that I showed where it's just a list of text. But if you're not going to do that, you can just get rid of that box like this, delete the box, and then they can click and drag words. So they would categorize words that kind of go together. And they can label those categories in any way they want to. But this is just an example of how it's done. And then they would be talking as a group. I also included a Jamboard because I prefer this activity to be done in Jamboard. And in the teacher's guide, it shows an example of what it looks like in the Jamboard. And I have a video also showing how to set up the Jamboard. But you get the idea. They drag the words, put them into categories, talk about it with partners or a small group, and then why did all those words go together? Label the category here. I need to add a text box there. Gotta remember to do that. But label the category there, and then they write a prediction about what they think is going to happen in the text. And I have an example of that as well in the teacher's guide. This example, I already set this one up, is for the same activity. It's just a different layout. I kind of like this layout a little bit better, but the other layout does have room for that prediction. If you use this layout because you like it better, but you still want to have them do a prediction, there is a space for that to happen. I'll show you in a second. But with this one, they would just copy the word and paste the word. So, and then double click on this to change the title for what is the category label here. These are all labels. It's word art, so you double click to change the word. But I like word art because then you can resize it like it's a shape and make it fit. Next, here's the example. So this is what the categories would look like all done by a group of students. And I actually did this one myself though, but these are all words I put together and I decided that they all maybe would connect to a setting. And these would all maybe connect to a character. These might all connect to a possible problem in the story. And then here's my prediction about what I think is going to happen. In this chapter, Roz will have to seek refuge after her shelter is submerged. She will methodically survey her surroundings in order to find a safer place to build a shelter. And that's basically it. You may want to give students a list of possible categories to choose from. I find that to be helpful. And then they can come up with their own categories if they want to. But I feel like in the beginning, it's a little bit easier to start with, these are some ideas for categories. Then the following activities would be a good thing to use for if you're going to pull small groups. So this activity here would be something that they would do in the station rotations. Work with you, whoever is at your station, to complete this categories activity. And I have a paper version of this too, if that's better, but I do prefer it to be in a Jamboard because then it's easy for me when I pull a group of kids to talk about the next things I'm going to show, that I have it right there and it's not on a big piece of paper and all messy. Yeah, I like things to be neat. But these are some good activities to do when you pull a small group. So ask them, how did you label your 3 categories? And have them explain why they came up with those category labels. Choose specific words and ask them, what category did you label this specific word? And I would choose keywords that are very important. And then ask them, how would they label that category, or how would they label that word, and explain. I also like to have them explain connections between 2 words. So how are illuminating and refuge connected? That's a really, really good activity to do. I always see amazing thinking from students in this piece, explaining why they're connected. So great. Looks super simple, but it's really a great activity. Then this is a separate page. Like I said before, if you were doing this page for the layout and there's no room for a prediction, then you can use this adding on page to write a prediction. Sometimes I put some little keywords in here that I want them to try to use. And that's a really good idea to do that in the beginning, because it kind of helps them not be overwhelmed when they have so many words to choose from. Pick out some keywords that you think they could connect together in a prediction easily and put them in that little crystal ball there. Mood, I like to do this one too. So based on the words that you looked at on the vocabulary list, what would you predict the mood in this next coming chapters are going to be? It's a good way to kind of also talk about, if you are pulling them for small groups, to talk about connotative and denotative meanings of the words. Then this one I like to do after we read the chapters. So before the chapters, they made predictions, and then after the chapters, they're going to use the vocabulary words again to write a summary of what they read. So choose the 7 words that you think were the most important after you read, and then narrow it down to 5 by getting rid of 2, get rid of 2 more, and you have 3 left. What would you say is a summary using those 3 words? Then we come to, I could put it back like this. Then we come to the figurative language. So I have some different examples with visuals of the different types of figurative language with some explanations. The explanations are important because I'm going to ask students to write down some explanations of what was the purpose of that figurative language, what was it doing. So these are my examples for that. You could take a look at those. And they mostly come from very, very early on in the book, because I want to get these examples out of the way right away so that they can use them to learn from and get more independent and do the stuff on their own with less examples as we go on in the book. And then this is the page I'm going to have them do where they choose. It's like a little scavenger hunt with the book, and they find examples of figurative language. So each week, this would be a task listed on the station rotations to find figurative language. They would write a sentence from the text. They would write the meaning. What does it mean? The figurative language. Check the box for, is it simile, metaphor? What kind of figurative language is it? And then what was the purpose of the language? So for example, let me go back. This one here, if I was using this as an example, the purpose of this figurative language here might be to, and I even said it in my example, to invoke an emotional response from the reader. Did you feel a sense of wonder, excitement, or curiosity about the wildlife on the island? So in my examples, I kind of talked about the purpose of the language and what it was doing in the text. There's a paper version of this as well. So if paper is going to be something that works better for some activities, it is available in the teacher's guide. This is more specific about sensory details, and this could also be used. You can use this with other books as well because it doesn't have anything specific about the wild robot on it. Also a paper version of that. Then we get to context clues. There are little snapshots of the text with vocabulary words from the list, and I have talked about, done an example for each of the different types of context clues. And then I explain what type of context clue that is. And I go into detail with the actual clues in the text. So there's an example for each type. There's an example clue. There's another example clue. So I did 2 of those. There's an antonym clue. There's a synonym clue. And then the work that they will do looks like this, but it will have the text here. You can have them enter the text as well. Have them choose a word from the knowledge rating that they didn't know. The vocabulary list has page numbers, so have them go back into the text and pull out that section of the text and type it up here, and then describe the context clues. What's the definition of the word? And here's an example of a paper version of that. The paper versions do already have a word from that week put down on them because the paper versions are not editable. Here's an example of what it would look like once you put in the text that you want them to be looking at for context clues. And I do have one for each week of the reading in here, but it is editable. So if you want to change what I did or add more for them to do, you have an editable page to do that with. Next, we get to tic-tac-toe, one of my favorite activities. I'm going to escape my presenting mode here. So I have a teacher. I did a video on tic-tac-toe. You should watch it because it gives so many ways to use this, and it's so fun to do. But for this purpose, they would just set up their tic-tac-toe board. I have them take turns placing the words, and I tell them to try to be strategic about how they're doing it, because whatever 3 words are in a row, they're going to have to come up with a statement that uses those 3 words. But this is kind of hard with these vocabulary words, so I would recommend watching my tic-tac-toe video and doing some of the Smart Start activities that I suggested for leveling up to be doing something hard. But once they have their board all set up, then they take turns dragging X's and O's. And I have a Jamboard version of this too, because I would just prefer that rather than having them in the slides that I assign for their notebook, I don't really want that to be shared with other students. I don't want that. So I would say you could have them do it in one person's and then paste the paragraph writing in the other person's notebook. Or what I find much, much, much better is to use the Jamboard version. And I did include that in the teacher's guide. There's a link for that as well. This is where they write their paragraph. So the 3 words that they had would go here, and then they would write their paragraph talking about something that happened in the text and including the 3 words. So if surveyed, non-essential, and methodically were the 3 words, they would then write a paragraph about something that happened in the text using those 3 words. There's a modified version of this because this might be hard for some kids to do, and I want to have options. So what they would do instead is put the 3 words in the 3 boxes here, and then choose 2 of the words and explain how the 2 words are connected. It's like a lower level version of the activity. This is another fun thing that I included. It's called Guess in 5. So the students will use these context clues that we are learning about to play. It's kind of like that game Guess in 10, except it's 5 guesses instead of 10. And there are 5 different types of context clues. So I thought it would work really well to use that idea with giving clues. So the student will choose a word from the vocabulary list, find it in the book, and then one person is the guesser, and their slide will look like this. This is the paper version of it here, but their slide will look like this. And one person is the guesser, one person gives the clues, and as they are giving clues, they should give a synonym clue, an antonym clue, an explanation clue, an inference clue. And for that one, I told them in the directions here that they should read the sentence from the book, but without saying the word. And then finally, the last clue, definition clue. And hopefully by the 5th guess, they should have gotten it by then. But that is that. Now let's look at, so these are some other things that are going to be coming out with this. I am super excited about it. There's going to be editable banners that you can use in Google Classroom or in a Google form if you're doing a quiz or a test. I did include quizzes each week for the vocabulary words and for a couple of other different things in other sections of the lessons. There's going to be a new, super excited about this too, it's so fun, a new game of quotes themed with wild island survival-y type questions and a wild card. And the directions for what that wild card does is in the directions for the game. There's a slides version if you want to do it that way as a whole class, or there's cards. I liked to use cards, really. There's cards for students to play this at one of their stations. A super, super fun activity if you've never heard of it before. I'm quite proud to be the inventor of such a great game for reading. And then here's a look at some of the different activities. I'll make some other videos when I get these things ready. I hope to have this done by August 1st. Maybe sooner, we'll see. But there's going to be some different activities related to short films. So that's going to be like paired text focused things with animated short films that are connected to the novel in some way. Those lessons are really amazing, and I can't wait to share those. There's going to be some different discussion type activities, extension projects, and then the teacher time one, that's small group things that you would do when you're pulling small groups. So that is it for my preview of what's coming out with the Wild Robot. Super excited about it. I have worked so hard on this. And it is by far the best work that I've ever done. And I think that's it. You should subscribe to my channel so you can see when I post some other videos about what this is going to look like. And that's it. Thanks for watching.